As soon as Tom gets here, I'll wrap the gavel.
I feel like I'm embarrassing myself.
That's,
Just got one piece.
We are live already.
the time is now 12:01. I'd like to call to order the City of White House Economic Development Corporation, October the 14th, 2021. Susan, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Bob Breedlove, Charles Parker,
Here.
Cindy Miller, Arnie LaFleur,
Here.
John Chambers,
Here.
Maria Davenport, and Tom Trimble.
Here.
We barely have a quorum.
Barely. Okay, the approval of the minutes from the EDC meeting of August the 19th, 2021. I didn't see anything wrong with them. I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
A motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item C, presentations. We have none. Item D, public forum. Anybody sign in? Nobody's in the audience, so we'll move on to item E, agenda items. The time is 12:02. Let the record reflect that Bob Breedlove has arrived.
Sorry.
Good.
Very good, Bob.
Man, that lunch looks good.
Some Brunos.
Man.
So you got it earlier.
It's still over there. Go help yourself.
Okay.
Item E, agenda items. Staff update on broadband feasibility study with CobbFendley.
So, members, as you all remember, we went out for an RFQ for a broadband feasibility study at the last council meeting before last. The council authorized me to begin negotiations with CobbFendley. We received 2 bids back. One, unfortunately, was after the deadline, so we couldn't open it. And so we're moving forward with CobbFendley, and I expect the council will approve a contract with them, hopefully at their next meeting. We've included their statement of qualifications and kind of their work approach and project methodology in your packet for you, so you can read through that at your leisure. But we are excited to get started on that. The best part about it is that the time from start to finish for that study is estimated, I believe, at either 56 or 54 days. It's pretty quick. So we're hoping by the end of the year we've got a great product in hand. Mayor Wansley has also been working with UT Tyler. They're in the process of applying for a grant through the Build Back Better program. And we're working to secure funds for any design projects that may come out as a result of this study. So that's all great news. We're seeing a lot of interest from regional partners to include City of Tyler and several other organizations in the area. So we're excited about it.
Does that require, that Build Back Better plan or funding, does that require the federal funding of what has not passed already, or is this stuff that's already funded?
Build Back Better is already funded and approved. That's not there's another piece of legislation called the Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act, but that is stalled as best I can tell. So Build Back Better, I think, is part of the American Rescue Plan, maybe. So it's already been passed.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Any other thoughts? A lot of info in that packet.
Yeah, I was certainly impressed with how fast they were gonna have a report. Do we know what it's gonna cost?
We don't know yet. So this is an RFQ. It's considered a professional service, which means that we cannot base our decision on who we use based on cost, because it's engineering. So I'm waiting for them to get that information over to me. We will pay for it with American Rescue Plan funds. So it's a grant-funded project.
Great.
Looks like they've done a bunch of them too.
Yeah.
I was looking at the one for UT in the Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville. That was what caught my attention, because with partnering with UT Tyler on this other situation, I thought that was a nice tie-in because they've already been down that road. So,
That's a good point.
Well, they clearly have plenty of experience. That's impressive.
Yeah, both firms we heard back from are probably the two most well-known firms for municipal broadband projects in the state, so I was excited that we had their interest, and that they both submitted even in front of them. And it wasn't their fault, it was just delivered by the delivery company daily, so.
okay. If there's no other, there's somebody else, I know you're still looking around. Anything else? Okay, item 2, discussion and consideration of the request for proposal, RFP, for an economic development strategic plan.
If you'll remember, we went out for an RFP for a strategic plan earlier this year and received one response, but it was significantly probably broader in scope than what we were really looking for. So we have re-released the RFP for the strategic plan with a deadline of November 1st. So hopefully by our next meeting, we'll have some proposals for you all to review. And I believe I included that in your revised RFP in your packet. So if you have any specific firms you'd like me to send that out to that we maybe didn't send the first one out to, just let me know. I will resend it to our list that we sent the first round to as well.
I don't have any other recommendations. Anyone else have any thoughts on it?
Chirp, chirp, chirp.
It's pretty quiet.
This is no line.
I don't really have experience in soliciting those type of studies, so I don't have any real good input.
I'm hoping with a little bit more limited scope, we'll get a little bit more interest. The first one was just so big that I think some firms may have been a little scared off by how big it was, so.
Well, it was pretty broad, I will
It
say
was.
that, and when you go that broad, it's also gonna be that expensive, so.
So how are we going to narrow the scope?
So the scope is narrowed to include those items that we discussed at our last meeting and remove the others. So specifically, what's that page? So the scope is more limited to identifying target industries, an analysis of our current workforce, an implementation plan for anything that they identify. So we really kind of scaled it back to what kind of industries should we be targeting, what can we reasonably attract, and what steps do we need to do to get there.
Good idea.
I think the key here is, and I've said this before, but just like the Tyler EDC, they don't focus, they don't participate in certain things, such as, they won't promote any residential growth. They want outside companies to come in there, or a significant expansion of a certain thing. Now, maybe we don't wanna follow them exactly, but we need a purpose and a more narrow focus instead of this well, we're here to do business, but exactly what? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what we're, so we can just do something in writing and put the plan together to narrow that down. I think that's the overall goal, at least in my mind it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, to amplify what you're saying, Charles, at the Tyler Economic Development Council was always focused on primary employment.
Right.
And their idea then was everything would follow from that. So they were always just about, is a company gonna be able to bring in jobs for primary employment? And they didn't focus on, shopping centers and things like that, commercial development. We're kind of different though, being a suburban kind of, community. So, yeah, I would think our mission's gonna be quite different than theirs.
yeah, I mean, I have my own thoughts already that I've already, preconceived ideas. It would be nice to have somebody bring something from a different viewpoint. And
Yeah.
see where that
See if,
goes.
see if we're not missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this allows us to better market what we have. It gives us a marketing focus for going out there and chasing what we feel is best for the community.
Well, and, to go with that, when you start talking about different types of business, whether it be retail or manufacturing or whatever else, and you start thinking about brick and mortar, well, we live in a virtual age, and so what is the marriage between that now?
It's a much different animal.
It's a
out
much
there.
different animal, and so I think the timing of this focus is really good to be
I
able
agree.
to figure out that direction. Any other thoughts? Do we need to take action on this one?
No, sir.
Okay.
Looks good. Thank y'all
Thank you very much.
for the work on that.
Staff's doing a good job. Item 3, discuss and consider the after-hours event.
So I have no new update on this. This is just kind of stagnant right now. I haven't had a chance to work on it, so it's something I do want to talk about when we go into executive session and talk about personnel.
Well, the original idea behind the after-hours event was to reach out to the Tyler Builders Association and focus on that direction. I don't see anything wrong with that, but it would be really nice, before we do this, to start down the pathway of having our plan put together first now. That's sort of where my mindset is with it. I mean,
Have something to market.
right, what is our marketing plan, what is that? And I think, timing wise, I think that if we could get that report in place and get our plan together and introduce something like that at that type of event,
Yeah.
I think that's gonna have more impact than a lot of other things that we could do.
It certainly helps tell our story better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And get the, word of mouth as well as the written pieces of this out there to everybody. So, I'm okay that we're dragging our feet, so to speak, with it a little bit. I think the timing of this is really, I think it's really important, and I think we need to be judicious with that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Especially it being kind of the first one, you'd like to use it as an opportunity to tell your story. It sounds like it's already ongoing. Then with all this Delta variant business that was going on, I think everybody got a little hesitant about scheduling big events, and fortunately now that's on a big nosedive, so maybe we can not have to worry about that stuff quite so much.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to discussions of November meeting day. November gets pretty crowded between Thanksgiving and everything else, and it's probably the worst time of the year for me to even think about a meeting during the day. I'll do the best I can. That's all I can tell you.
The reason I asked to have this on the agenda is November 11th is our normal day. Well, that's Veterans Day, and the offices are closed. So keep that in mind when you're.
I've got some business travel coming up, mid-November, so if we push it back a week, I wouldn't be able to. Not that that matters, but it's one less person.
Yes, so the major decision point coming up will be dependent upon what submittals we receive for the strategic plan and how quickly we want to move on that, because that deadline is November 1st. So why don't we see where we are on that deadline day, and then we can schedule accordingly if you want.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Yeah.
Let's just be a little bit flexible. Can y'all kind of do that?
Mhm.
And let's see what that works out, looks like. Cause at this point, I hate to commit to anything.
So I'm pretty committed to being
Yeah.
non-committal.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Would y'all be open to just sending me some dates that would not be good?
Mhm.
If you just send me those, and that would help us plan a little better. You know, there are dates you just simply cannot. If you send those to me.
Okay.
Okay. It's fine with me. Okay. Consider future agenda items. I think we're on target with everything that we've got. I don't have anything else unless someone else does.
Are we getting, any outside proposals or desire to talk to the council or Economic Development Council or anything?
As far as like projects, new commercial
Yeah,
projects?
commercial projects, people wanting to. I'm just curious, is there any?
Nothing new that we haven't already discussed right now. Our two big commercial projects are still plugging away. One of them, I think their bid for site work came in significantly higher than what they expected. So they were going back to their engineers to see what they could do. I'm sure, Bob, you're seeing that pretty regularly right now. We've made it very clear that they should come back and talk to us before they just walk away, because they were sounding pretty grim the other day when Susan spoke with them. But hopefully they can find some ways to do their project a little more cost effectively, and if they need a little additional help from us, we're certainly willing to have that conversation, so.
Are we helping them with the water line?
We are. So, but we plan to take that out of the utility fund, so it's not an EDC expenditure, necessarily. So we could come back to the EDC for funding if they needed a little bit of help too, so. We'll see. They're still working out there, so they haven't thrown their hands up yet.
Okay?
I think everybody's facing that right now, not just them.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
There's a lot of drainage involved in that project, so.
Okay. If nothing else, move on to administrative reports. Item F, one, update on the strategic plan, which we've discussed more or
Well,
less.
I wanted to do an update on the city's strategic plan. As we talk about an EDC strategic plan, there are a lot of things in the city's strategic plan that deal with quality of life and our ability to attract businesses and residents in the future. So, as we're talking about doing an ED strategic plan, I felt like it might be a good time to do an update on the city strategic plan and what we've got going on there, because I think they work pretty well hand in hand with what you all are trying to do. So the city strategic plan was adopted in 2018 as a 10-year plan, and as I was going through and doing this update for the council the other night, I was pretty darn proud of everything that we've accomplished in just 3 years. It's testament to the work that the council has done and the staff does on a daily basis to try and move it forward. So we'll kind of breeze through it pretty quickly. The first big bold step was to create a city management plan for a strong foundation for city management, performance, and communications. We've done almost all of these. I think we've done all of these, 1 through 4. The biggest one is the Interagency Council. We're holding monthly meetings with the EDC, the ISD, the Chamber of Commerce, Keep White House Beautiful, the new Youth Community Council that they're starting at the high school, the Parks and Rec Foundation that is getting underway, and then the Ministerial Alliance has also been included in that. So it's been a great opportunity for us to just get around the table together once a month and talk about projects that we have going on and how we can help each other if there are any roadblocks or obstacles. The other items on this focus more around communications, both internal and external, which I think we've pretty well got covered with our weekly newsletter that we send out to the community and using our social media channels. And then for internal communication, the leadership team meets every morning just to kind of talk through our day, what we've got going on, anything we need to work on together. So, any questions on that one?
I like that interagency idea a lot. That's something that's definitely been missing.
It's
Yeah, because there's so much room for cooperation, but it's kind of hard to get it done, you know, so that's great.
Yeah, and we try to keep those meetings to just an hour, so provide lunch just so that we can kind of get in, work through anything we've got going on. It's been great so far. I think we just started that in July, maybe June or July, somewhere in there. For number 2, create a proper governance that is transparent and leads the city towards the fulfillment of its vision. Again, this one focuses a lot on communications, and then we do have an onboarding process for elected officials. We hold a council orientation that we started last year. Since we have, how many new council members in November? At least three new council members that will take office in November. This will be an important step, and it's about half a day. We may change it to a full day this year, because it's just a lot of information. How to work with each other, with other boards, how to work with city staff, how to stay out of legal trouble, all the fun. Number 3, and this one is something we've taken some big steps towards this year, is obtaining the land, as necessary land to accomplish the vision. So the vision in the strategic plan is really a community green space in what we would consider downtown. If you'll remember, we purchased 109 East Main, the old karate studio, and are in the process of doing a facilities plan to look at what's the highest and best use for not only that facility, but our current city facilities, and if there's anything we can shuffle around to maybe make more green space or free up some space along Main Street. So we're really excited about that. I've been talking to the architects that are doing that study, and we have some ideas. One of the things that was presented to the city council this week, we've got our finance people coming in. We have a significant amount of debt that falls off, that we pay off in the coming years, and because of legislation and how we have to structure our tax rates, we can't necessarily capitalize on that. For the operations side, you kind of have to keep your debt, you want to keep it at a level over a certain year over year. So we're looking at probably a certificate of obligation issuance in 2022, and maybe more to come later to help stabilize our debt rate. So that's exciting stuff. We're gonna have some opportunity to do some capital projects that we may have not had in prior years. So I think that'll be fun stuff. I think we're gonna look at doing a Parks and Trails plan, which is a plan we've never had before. After the first of the year, I need to get the facilities plan done, the broadband study done, and then we can look at a parks plan to really kind of prioritize and see what projects we may want to do going forward. And that's primarily why I wanted to talk about the strategic plan, because it has, like I said, a lot of quality of life things that I think will help us be attractive to our community, not just now, but going forward. I think our facilities and parks probably don't reflect that we're a young, thriving, growing community, and it may not be telling our story the way we would like it to right now. So we're gonna have some opportunity. And then we do have a new business that came to town. Wildcat Mart is officially now a part of the city. So they requested voluntary annexation, and the council approved that 2 meetings ago. So
Okay.
that's a great thing.
Send that to him. The annexation.
I'll send it to you. So anyway, that was exciting that he wanted to come into the city for no other reason, just to be a part of the community. And then because of that, and because of the way state law is written, the council has approved to allow him to sell beer and wine. So that's one benefit to him, but that really wasn't his goal in coming into the city. He really just wanted to be a part of the city White House, so we were really excited about that. And the sales tax won't be bad either.
No.
All right, this one is dealing with the annexation strategy and governance strategy. The Parks and Recreation group is in the process of starting a nonprofit foundation that I think Ernie is a part of as well.
It's gonna be signed tomorrow.
Excellent. So that will allow for Parks and Rec to receive donations for any future projects. So again, that will just help any efforts that we want to do for any of our park spaces. We are pursuing several grant opportunities, and the reason why we need a parks and trails plan, in order to be eligible to get Texas Parks and Wildlife grants, you don't have to have a plan, but you get extra points if you have a plan, and it's so competitive that you're not gonna be in the running for funding if you don't have a plan. So it's kind of a necessary thing to capitalize and receive funds in the future. Let's see.
Especially if you're doing safe route to schools and things like that, where you're gonna drag in the ISD into it so that you benefit from their broader demographics as opposed to just the city of
Yes.
White House.
Number 5, developing
Special.
the amenities that will enhance our quality of life for a lifetime. We've kind of talked about those things. I'm being purposefully kind of vague right now just because we don't necessarily have a plan. So I'm waiting on a few studies and recommendations to come from our consultants that we're working on to move forward on some of these things. And then creating the city's identity and brand to promote the vision. I was telling the council on Tuesday, you know, I think all of the things that we're doing on the communications front do more to establish our identity and brand than anything else that we can do. So we're trying to be very proactive and making sure we're putting out good information all the time. So we continue those efforts. That's all I have on that.
Very good. You know, one thought that might impact the EDC at some point, with this park and trails plan, is there's so many, you know, that could be quite extensive with this rails to trails, you know, the amount of area it impacts. And then there's so many other development ideas to spin off of that. Businesses that might want to be near it, residential neighborhoods want to be near to it. So on the one hand, it kind of sounds like just an amenity, but it's actually for I think for more of a suburban community, that's a pretty critical linchpin because a lot of other things flow from it. Bob's probably got a lot better handle on it than I do, but
Well, I
I
think
certainly think that's a really pretty key
we're
thing.
seeing a push for outdoor spaces, not just for recreation, but for retail and restaurants more now than ever. I mean, you look at what
Yeah.
Montez has done out, you know, beside and behind their facility, and these people just wanting to spread out a little bit more. I think there's a push for it now like there's never been. So.
I totally agree. I think it could be really pretty impactful.
Well, I think this goes back to our overall age in our community as well, because we're a totally different city than we were 10 years, and let alone 20 years ago. You know, when your average age goes from the mid-40s to the mid-30s to the low 30s in age, you know, that tells you a lot, right?
Oh, that's the average demographic of White House.
Yeah, it's like 33.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew it had been getting younger. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and young people want and have different needs, And if that's who you're attracting in, and,
Yeah.
you know, again, from an economic perspective, you look at that and say, okay, do we wanna continue to attract that, or is this what we're gonna get because we have a great school system? You know, and so those are all, you know, topics that we have to kind of weed through economically as we go through it, I think. So, anyway. Sorry to go so far off in left field with it, but that's,
No,
it all has a bearing. The thing that concerns me about all this is that our city staff is, you know, pretty small. And we run a really tight ship in the city. And now that we're studying this and that and the other thing and doing all of these different stuff, and when we start implementing them as well, I'm really concerned about the burden there. But that's a council thing, not us, but.
Yeah.
But it could impact us going forward.
Implementation is gonna require more people than the initial thinking, the thought.
Exactly.
Making it happen's a whole different level of activity.
Maybe a good time to go into executive session.
I think it would be, since I teed it up.
Yeah, thank you.
The time is now 12:32, and we will close the regular meeting and move into executive session. We can let the record reflect time is now 12:49, and we're returning to the regular meeting. There are no action items as a result of the executive session. So at this time, item I is in order, and at 12:50, we are adjourned. Bob, go get you something to eat.
Yeah, I know, it smells good. Susan,